here is a shout out to Aoya.com. You can choose for them to drop you anything for a very small price. Do not ever forget to use the coupon code RENCREATES so that you guys save 3% on your next purchase and you help out me as a creator. This video is going to cover all of the bosses' lore in Elden Ring. Well, at least the mandatory bosses. So with all that being said, let's get into today's video. Merget, the Fell Omen. Merget is likely the first boss you will encounter in the game. He assists Godric because they share the same wannabe intentions, both smothered in failure. Merget is a clear reflection of the desire to want to be like Morget, the Omen King. This can further be proven by the dialogue they both share if the Tarnished is defeated.
Put these foolish ambitions to rest. The lowly Tarnished. Plain as a lord. I command thee, kneel! I am the lord of all that is golden.
Godric is the first shardbearer you encounter in Elden Ring. He is also a demi-child of the first Elden Lord. Godric is a coward. He flees the royal capital with the illusion of being a woman. He also hides in his castle to avoid combat with Redigan, and surrenders to the blade of Miquella when he is bested in battle. He's a sorry excuse for the last of the golden lineage and blood of Godfrey. The blood of his lineage is diluted in the countless graftings that he has done. Godric grafts himself to further his prowess that he now possesses, going as far as to graft a dead dragon's head to his arm, in a last-ditch effort to defeat the Tarnished. The title of Godric the Golden was possibly his identity before he began grafting. After partaking in this grotesque act, those who knew of his name and even the game ridicules him for his actions. However, Godric was not the only one who participated in grafting in his lineage, as Godfrey the Grafted can be found at the Golden Lineage Evergoyle, who grafted before even Godric. Godric even has his minions such as the Warhawks who have blades grafted into their talons. Even with all the power that Godric has in his possession, yearning to mirror his bloodline, he still cannot defeat the Tarnished. Rellana, Queen of the Full Moon, whose husband is none other than Lord Redigan of the Golden Order, eventually to birth their offspring of the demigods. Rellana is unfortunately abandoned by Lord Redigan, who had to uphold the city to the Elden Lord inside the Erd Tree. The Amber Egg was the final parting gift given to her by her husband. Within it is the remnants of her daughter. On the night of Black Knives, both Godwin's soul and Ranni's possession of her physical body were lost. After Redigan had abandoned Ranni, she ended up taking her own life in an attempt to escape the Two Fingers. Her soul, however, would eventually find salvation, making its way into the body of a doll that was created by her mentor. The rune of the Unborn is gifted to us from the Amber Egg. This is why we do not kill Rellana, as Ranni is maintaining the image of her mother. This is due to her not being able to activate the rune by herself, and only half of the transaction of those willing to be reborn will be done. The test subjects all across the Grand Library are deformed. This is due to the children of Rellana being frail and short-lived. The final phase of Rellana is a reflection of herself after being abandoned by Redigan. She still holds the power of the full moon and her mind is still level-headed. Starscourge Radahn, once a great general, now prowls across the lands of the Sands of Caelid, causing destruction and ruin to all who come in his path, intimidating many to hide in their quarters such as Godric the Grafted. Even Radahn will meet his match once Malenia, the blade of Miquella, would shine her scarlet rod upon him, infecting Radahn even to his very core. His wits long gone and his image is grotesque, gathering the corpse of former friends and foes alike, devouring them like a dog. Starscourge Radahn is also responsible for keeping Lady Ranni's fate in stasis, as you and Blythe must venture into the Redmane Castle to join the festival of other champions across the land to take down Radahn. He was renowned as a Starscourge in youth. Undoubtedly, his weapon, the Great Starscourge Greatsword, would have the power of gravity tempered into it as well, This is one of the only battles in the game that includes the festival mechanic. It is no wonder why, as Bly was surprised by how Radahn was holding back such power.
Did you see that afterwards? A falling star right before our eyes. I can't fathom how Radahn was holding back something of that scale. He was a living legend if ever I saw one.
Morgott, the Omen King, son of Queen Marika and Godfrey, and twin of Mohg, the Lord of Blood, both demigods. Morgott was absent at some point in time when the Elden Ring had been shattered, and returned to his home in Leyndell only to find his mother had left the royal capital, with his father also being absent as well. Morgott assumes the alias of being the last of all kings. He goes on to tell the Tarnished of all of his siblings and how they were willful traitors. Like the Fell Omen, if the Tarnished is vanquished in combat, Morgott utters the infamous quote,
"Put these foolish ambitions to rest."
He is the graceless Omen who takes it upon himself to become the Erdtree's protector. Even if not loved in return, for he was never loved, but nevertheless, love it he did. His blade of shifting hue used by Morgott the Omen King, the accursed blade that Morgott recanted and sealed away, reformed into this blade, most likely referring to the blood of his bloodline or the power shared by Mohg. Later on we can see Morgott being held by Godfrey, right before his battle. The Fire Giant is the last survivor of the war against the Giants. Upon realizing the flames of the forge would never die, Queen Marika marked him with a curse. O trifling giant, mayest thou tend thy flame for eternity. He now stays atop the flame peak, guarding the forge of the giants. The one thing that Queen Marika feared most is the Erdtree's weakness, which is fire. But not just any ordinary fire. The fire of the maddening spells. Although it's not confirmed that the flames of the first giant are his, and his Cyclops torso harnessed that kind of power, it still would make sense since we do go to the forge, which is where the Erdtree is caught aflame, as we could see this happen when we commit the cardinal sin with Millennia. The reason why the Fire Giant rips off his leg is mostly because of the inconvenience it brought him, since it's one of his only weak points in phase 1 of his boss battle. Or it's an offering to a god or the Cyclops on its torso to give the Fire Giant's power more potency. The Godskin duo, a complementing pair of creatures, extremely well versed in duel. These beings achieve an exponentially balance in their combat, resulting in a devastating synergy. The Apostles are ones said to serve the destined deaths, which are wielders of the god-slaying Black Flame. But after their defeat by Malekith, the Black Blade and source of their power was sealed away. The Godskins are god killers and followers of the Glintai Queen. Using Black Flame as their weapon, they have the ability to bring forth destined death. If the Rune of Death were ever to be whole again and get into the Elden Ring, Queen Marika and the other demigods would become vulnerable to death once again. The Godskins are reptilian-like in a way, almost like a dragon. We fight the Godskin duo in the crumbling Azula, the same location as the Dragon Lord. The Dragon Lord was an Elden Lord before the Greater Will arrived. The Apostles are likely descendants of the dragons. Melikath is the half-brother of Queen Marika. He utilizes the Rune of Death as a weapon to neutralize the Glintai Queen and her followers. As stated before with the Destined Death, Melikath was given the Rune of Death by Marika, told to guard it so they can maintain immortality as gods. Malekith is also a half-wolf, like Blide, which would explain his beast-like appearance. Malekith was a shadow-bound beast given to his Empyrean. Marika's sole need of her shadow was a vessel to lock away the destined death. Even after being betrayed, Malekith still protects the Rune of Death with his life. But as fate has it, the Tarnished eventually prevails. Sir Gideon Ofnir is the leader of the Round Table. You get here by talking to Millennia once you get to Gatefront Grace. Gideon is nicknamed as the All-Knowing. However, you must found a Shardbearer in order to prove yourself worthy towards Gideon. Once Godric is bested and you've activated his Great Rune, you will then have access to a new area in the Round Table. Here you will find a statue with 2 fingers and finger reader Ina. whom after reading your fate will allow you to engage in converse with Gideon once again. Gideon will then share with you 5 whereabouts about the demigods. After defeating Melikath, the capital will burn along with the Erdtree being ablaze. Once progressing into the throne room, Sir Gideon's delusions make him come to the decision that the Queen wants the world to be put in a perpetual state of living in chaos, instead of having the next Elden Lord.
Alas, none shall take the throne. Queen Marika has high hopes for us, that we continue to struggle.
Due to his identity as a know-it-all, it is no surprise that his intellect is nearly unmatched, using many spells that you've likely encountered during your time with other bosses in the game. Once Gideon is defeated, he can only utter this dialogue before the curtain closes on his final act.
I know in my bones a tarnished cannot become a lord. Not even you.
Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. With many victories under his belt, the lands between did not come to be until the marriage of Godfrey and Marika under the Greater Will. Before the war, Godfrey was known as Horalu, a fierce warrior. Godfrey and Marika had many children, including Godwyn, who helped lead the war against the dragons, along with Morgott and Mo, the twins, and possibly even more. Godfrey is depicted as a fierce warrior, who knew no defeat. It is the perfect ally to have on your side. The beast-rained Sarash was put on his back to quell the ceaseless lust for war that dwelled within Godfrey. Sarash was a safety measure utilized to keep Godfrey's lust in check. It should be noted that this stand-like spirit was grafted onto Godfrey, as it was the only way for Marika and the Greater Will to take full control of him. The Stormlord was the last grand enemy that was defeated by Godfrey. This was the act that finally ended his bloodlust. After the lands between were united, Godfrey's purpose was now served. His grace was no longer. Being robbed of his grace and now tarnished, he makes his way back to the capital to take the title of the first Elden Lord. Then we arrive to lock in combat with him. Once he realizes that we are a worthy opponent, he tears Sarash off his grafted back and returns to the identity of Horalu. If not for us, he could go back into the Erdtree and maintain the status as Elden Lord. However, with being up against a force such as us, he must take a last stand before we take him down.
Tarnished. Thy strength befits same crown.
To think that Redigan was Marika herself.
Redigan of the Golden Order, and husband of Rennala, Queen of the Full Moon. Redigan abandons his wife to uphold the city and royal capital of Reyendell. However, upon further inspection, Redigan is the alter ego and male half of Marika. If you go to the Church of Vows in Lirunia, you will see that there's a statue of Redigan, with a message appearing on the ground: Redigan is Marika. Redigan represents the Great Rune itself in the Elden Ring. In the Hammer of Marika's item description, it reads that Marika tried to shatter the Elden Ring, while Lord Redigan tried to repair it, proving that they have a separate consciousness. Redigan was separated from Marika's being so she could fully rule over being head of the hosts. Queen Marika would wage war against the giants atop the mountains, especially for her armed forces when waging wars. This was the sole purpose of Redigan in the lands between. And, as it turns out, that the giants were worshipping the moon and saw it as a heresy, which would militarize Marika against both the Carians and Leia Rukaria. Oddly enough, Redigan will meet Rennala on the battlefield and fall in love with her, eventually getting married and having children. Redigan would also learn incarnations of Rennala while spending time at the academy, and he would bring his red wolf, which would stay there until the Tarnished put it down. In the end, Redigan must return to his other half, leaving Rennala and asexually reproducing 2 more offspring. The Eldon Beast. The final obstacle the Tarnished must face to become the Elden Lord. Although the Elden Lord does manifest before our very eyes, it truly is the vessel of the greater will. It is said that long ago, the Great Will sent a golden star bearing the beast into the lands between, which would later become the Elden Ring. If this is true, this means that the Elden Ring has an astral connection to it. The Elden Ring and Eldon Beast share a connection that we can see from its form after Redigan is defeated. The Eldon Beast came from space and does not want the tarnish to brandish it. So, you take up your blade and lay waste to what literally is the Elden Ring. So that is the lore of all of the bosses in Elden Ring. Well, actually all the main bosses in Elden Ring, the mandatory ones. That is why I slipped in Red Wolf with Redigan, and we have the Godskin duo here as well, because I think they're actually very important. Well, Godskin duo more than Red Wolf, but still, I didn't want to make this video too long because I knew it was going to be long to begin with. But obviously this isn't all of the lore, and this definitely isn't all the bosses like I said before. So what I'm going to end up doing with this experimentation I'm trying with the Elden Ring lore is that if this video gets good enough reception, I'm going to make the optional bosses in Elden Ring their lore video as well. Because there's actually quite a few optional bosses in this game that have some fantastic lore, and I would love to cover it. But yeah, this video was very fun to make. If I got anything factually incorrect, or could have added more, please let me know in the comment sections below. Very appreciated. But yeah, this was really fun to make. It was a lot of fun to dive deep into the lore and research all these bosses that eventually branched out to other bosses and other bits of information. It was a lot of fun to make this video. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.